Good morning, everybody. We've got a really good session lined up for you. Session number 4, Leadership During a Crisis, Responding to the Coronavirus. And my name is Jay Womack. I'm the CEO of Infinity Workforce. And we have been around since 1999 with 1,500 plus clients. And we see this going on in the industry, and we wanted to bring something additional of value to the table. And the first 3 sessions are on our website, and the first 3 sessions you can look at, and it talks about putting in the informal infrastructure on top of the formal structure. And we've really reaching out and helping the industry in a big way with this information. And joining me today is Mark Ray. Mark, tell us a little bit about you, and then we're going to introduce Pat Landreth after that.
Good morning, Jay. Yes, looking forward to our discussion this morning, the pros and cons of online orientation, and in today's world, the reality of online orientation. I've spent the last 34 years in the truck transportation industry, the last 20 plus with Frozen Food Express, and I'm also an advisor with the Council of Governments in the state of Texas for the trucking industry. Honored to be a part of the team that Jay assembled and discuss the framework of how we can implement online training in today's environment. That's not a new concept at all. So let's get our sleeves rolled up and get started.
Excellent. Sounds good, Mark. We have joining with us today Pat Landreth. We're going to introduce Pat here in a few minutes and give you his background and credentials, but he's been very, very aggressive in utilizing remote orientation. So let me quickly remind everybody that hasn't seen this, the ones that have and the ones that haven't, 5 leadership practices to help logistics thrive during the coronavirus crisis. Number 1 was propel the psychology of the problem solver. We're really focused today on number 2, which is the new effective organization in crisis management. And you can review more agility, leadership practice number 4, the healthy rhythm, and leadership practice number 5, empathy and bonding. But we're really focused on number 2 today. And if y'all recall, this is the structure that we put into place. The executive team has to have good support. So we're putting an informal, responsive team during the crisis right on top of the original structure of your corporation. So if we take a look at the executive team, obviously during a crisis, they've got to map the situation. They've got important scenarios. They've got to prioritize them. They've got to address them. They've got to deal with it. In order for them to drive the change, they've got to communicate and retrain, and then they have their response organization, which would be the medical advisory. And if y'all recall, we went through medical advisory because people are out in the real world, and they're out there touching real people in the real world. And so you don't necessarily have to have a doctor on the medical advisory team, but you do have to have somebody that really loves to dig in and research the situation to see what's going on. And then the response team, situation in need of support now, and that basically, people that are out there on the road and they run into an unusual situation, you have to have people that are thinking about this all along. Technology and learning, what's going on in technology and learning right now, and then financials, you have to dig into that. And I'm going to talk about the red circle here in just a second, which is going to lead to our Pat Landreth conversation. But before that, a quick review. Solution with peer teams, people that are literally out in the real world. I think this is critical. And if you think in these terms, you're sitting at the home office and you're used to operating the company, but now you have to have real world feedback of what's going on because things are different out in the field right now. And you can have your peer groups. If you recall, we've set up a forum on our website, infinityworkforce.com. So you can go there for a peer group and see the opportunities that we have that we've created for you to discuss with truck drivers, with dispatchers, operations, anyone else that wants to use Yammer that we set up within the website to get real world feedback and have your boots on the ground. I know I've done that pretty quickly, but that gives me an opportunity to focus on the new employee orientation as part of the SWAT team because things are different. And with the regulations, the 6 feet, the 10 feet, with the rules coming out of Washington right now to keep us safe, we really have to try. How are we going to adapt in the trucking industry to those rules? So we put together the 4 components of online onboarding. Number 1 is the policies. Make sure that we have training resources, policies, and company documents that are easy to access from any device. Number 2, engage in the Q&A. Host live events, whether it's through this type of meeting through Zoom or webinar or whatever, and engage your employees in real time, and really so they can see your face and see your emotions, that you're involved and invested with them. And number 3, onboarding community. Make sure the new employees feel welcome and they're part of the community. And number 4, best practice doing this is connect people. Connecting the employees with your team and employees across the organization, maybe through the form of a peer group or even a mentor within the company. And so that brings us now to what I'm really excited about, is to talk to Pat Landreth. Pat Landreth is Vice President of Safety and HR. He's with Ozark Motor Lines. We've known Pat for quite a while, and he is one of the absolute best at utilizing web-based remote orientation and training. And so, Pat, I am so excited to have you on the call with us today. How have you been doing? How are you surviving during all of this?
We're doing well. We've made some adjustments, and things are actually running very well, Jay.
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, you're in Memphis right now, correct?
That's correct.
All right, Memphis, Tennessee. Well, let's jump right into it, because most people are short on time, and I really want to make sure that we get the biggest bang for our buck. So the very first question that we have to ask for you today is you've recently moved your orientation from 3 days in person to 1 day in person. Can you share with us how that decision came about at Ozark? And then I want to do a follow-up question to that is, do you see a day when you're going to have to go to virtually 0 in-person orientation?
Yeah, Jay, we've been doing a 2-day orientation with another partial day of online orientation. So when the COVID-19 reared its ugly head, our first concern was for the safety of our employees and these new drivers that we were bringing in. So we decided we needed to take everything online that we thought we could and still do justice to the orientation process. We ended up just we just finished our first version of what I'm calling the pandemic orientation. And it lasted less than 1 day in-house. We started at 7 a.m. We were done before 2 p.m. And the neatest thing was our new hires got the online part of our orientation done before arriving in Memphis, Tennessee at Ozark. So thus at the end of the in-house part, we assigned them a truck. We restricted them to the yard and waiting on drug test results.
So by doing that too, you saved another night in hotel expenses and things like that. Pat, do you see a day where the federal government's going to say something to the effect of, you got to figure out how you're going to do your driver test and things of that nature and redesign the cab, or how are you going to do that remotely? Is there a way to talk about that?
At least initially, what we've been doing is we've got a tractor trailer. When we get ready to do road tests, we've got the tractor trailer set up the day before. So we get out there, we disinfect everything. Then in between road tests, you bring one guy in the cab, he finishes, you put another in. We're going out there and we're wiping down all the touch points of the truck and the trailer. And so we're hoping that this is going to be significant enough to not, transmit the virus.
Yeah, that's critical. As a matter of fact, we're creating a series right now on how do you clean the inside of a cab. I mean, I'm sure most people are anxious to have their loved ones get home safe. Pat, do you have examples of things you've taken online that were previously done in person, like payroll, settlements, HR, road service, stuff of that nature, things of that nature?
Yes, we do, Jay. Actually, we took almost everything online except a tour of our campus and the road test and the physical drug screen and some paperwork that need to be done. We simply recorded the video, every presenter, put it online through y'all, and then had them sign in person what paperwork was associated with each presentation. And if we'd had more time, we could have gotten something set up where they could sign everything online and, which saved a little bit more time, above that. And we're going to do a virtual tour by video very soon, so we don't even have to parade them through our different buildings that we have here on the Memphis campus.
That was actually my next question, if y'all are going to do a virtual tour, because I know that a lot of the real estate industry is doing quite a bit of that now, trying to adapt for home sales. Do you incorporate any safety training into your orientation? And if so, how do you determine what to include? defensive driving, things of that nature?
Yeah, we no doubt include safety training, but we also at Ozark require monthly training. So while our safety training may seem somewhat abbreviated in our orientation, we take a deeper dive into it every month. For example, we are big believers in the Smith System 5 keys. So they get several hours of it during orientation, now online, of course, and then we take 1 month per year to work on each individual key. So it's a little abbreviated, of course, as we do it through the online portion, but we just back it up month after month.
Do you use a checklist at all on your orientation or on your training?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, we checklists and signatures and all that kind of thing. And, you know, that was one of the challenges that, you know, moving more of it from in-house to online because of the pandemic. But we went through and we covered, we didn't leave any topic out.
Outstanding. Mark, anything to add to this?
Yeah, Pat, just a quick question. I'm assuming policies, references to road service, safety, accident is all, do you use the resource component of the platform so that the driver will have that once he leaves the yard?
Mark, we have been giving them a manual, a written document for them to, every new guy that comes through orientation. But we have just got through editing that, and we are going to, in an effort to, as they say, go green, we're going to eliminate all of that manual, and it is going to be in the resource area with Infinity.
Okay. So it's a couple of clicks away for the driver out in the field.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Pat, what's the typical schedule for a one-day in-person orientation?
Well, this week, of course, this was our first, like I said, Tuesday was our first pandemic orientation. We start with a 10-minute presentation about COVID-19, why we have them seated so far apart from each other, our expectations for conducting themselves to prevent the spread of the virus, and why it's so important that we get their compliance. Then we move straight into the physicals, drug screens, road test, and paperwork. So we've got our orientation kind of set up in a round robin of 3 different sectors. And we have our clinic personnel that do the DOT physicals come to our campus. That's a huge time saver. Cost a few more dollars to have them come, but in regards to transportation, we think we save that money. And so we send 1/3 of our class to our in-house clinic to get the physical pre-employment drug screen done. Another 1/3 of them go out and start doing road tests, and then 1/3 does their paperwork. And so as soon as they finish in the area they're in, such as physical, then they move to the next area, which is road test. And it's just a constant circle until all new hires are done in all 3 areas. So it has worked very well, and again, huge time saving the way we're doing that.
It sounds like it is. That's interesting having the healthcare workers come in. Do y'all, what day of the week do y'all normally do your in-person orientation, and could you do multiple one-day orientations during the week?
Yeah, since we rearranged everything, and we can now do 2 orientations. They're one-day orientations per week. So we're currently doing ours on Tuesday and Thursday. By starting on Tuesday, it allows the new hires to travel on Monday and let them be at home with their family on Sunday. That's a big deal to a lot of the drivers. And then our facility is large enough to conduct a 30-person orientation, but to comply with social distancing, we've reduced the maximum class size down to 10. So we're bringing about 20 drivers a weekend right now.
Have you done like dollars and cents from taking it from 3 days, particularly now, 3 days down to 1 day by using the remote online orientation? Have you done a dollars and cents analysis of that? And
Jay, I have not, but I mean, you know, just off the top of your head, you can reduce the expense by at least 1/3, if not 50%. When you start cutting out transportation to and from the hotel, when you start cutting out hotel rooms, when you start cutting out meals that we would have provided, you're easily going to reduce 30 to 50% of your expense.
Okay. All right. I personally like hearing that one. How's it been accepted? I mean, this is, with the coronavirus out there, tell me about just kind of the recruiting and bringing them on board right now, just in general. What's the feel out there? Are y'all is your turnover going down? Is it going up? What are you seeing out there in the marketplace right now?
Jay, I think it's going up slightly. Yesterday, we lost 2 drivers. One because his wife said, if you're going to go out there and drive over the road, don't come back home until the virus is completely over with. And of course, he didn't want to do that. And then we had another that we lost yesterday because of not having the ability, daycare had closed. And so he needed to stay home and take care of kids. I expect we'll get both of those drivers back. But I think increase in turnover is to be expected, at least a little bit.
Okay. I was just curious because that makes the online remote orientation that much more important, trying to bring other people on board right now. I know you've experienced online orientation in the past. Clearly, I know that. What's been the biggest challenge that you did expect by going online with Ozark this time? Because you've done this with several other companies.
Yeah, the first time I did it, there were some, real concerns. But once you've done an online orientation, you realize the challenge is not that big. The initial challenge, for those that have never done online orientation, is fear and change. And most of us are resistant to change, and we fear it's not going to work. But we're always afraid that something's going to go wrong. But I mean, honestly, we've done at least a portion of our orientation online. So this was really nothing other than just, hey, restructuring a few things. For those that have done online, there's really no fear to it.
So what's the biggest challenge that you did not expect? I mean, everyone was expecting that question first, but which one did you not expect?
Well, you're gonna find some details that you forgot to cover. So we did our first pandemic orientation Tuesday. The one we'll do tomorrow, we will be much better at it because we realize, hey, here's 2 or 3 things we hadn't thought of. We need to address because they're happening a little different with online instead of on in-house. But those are just small things. I mean, even if something goes wrong, it's not like the sky is going to fall. You just make a little change, pull your team together. Hey, what is the issue? What are our options? Choose one of the options and boom, hit the ground running.
Okay. All right. Now, beyond orientation training, how's social distancing? How's that impacting Ozark? I mean, like you got teams and things like that. And how's Ozark using online platform to help their drivers navigate through these challenges?
Well, first of all, I want to speak quickly to what our management decided to do. We are an on-site working group of people. We want to be here in person for our drivers. But during this pandemic, we outfitted every employee with a new laptop and hardware so that they could take their office phone home and stay on the same phone system. And that was a huge investment. But we see that it'll pay for us in the long run. When you've got a person, that has, he's sick, too sick to come to work, but he can still stay at the house and work, this is going to make a big difference. And I know a carrier in Middle Tennessee recently that was hit by a tornado. And if we get hit here, all of our employees will be at home, able to work. So it was a major decision, but I think it's going to be a great one. Probably right now, over 80% of our employees are working remotely from home. And, but if it's not the virus, like I said, it could be anything else that all of a sudden tells you I can't do business as normal. I've got to come up with something different. So the social distancing thing, as I said, we just spaced our people out in orientation for the small amount of in-house orientation we're still doing. We just spaced them out so far, and we started again with that 10-minute presentation saying, look, these are the rules, is to protect you and to protect us, and these are the expectations. And, We put boxes of Kleenex in front of every person. We put disinfectant wipes in front of every person. We gave them instruction about how to, when you go to the restroom, you're expected to use a tissue, to open the door, throw it away as soon as you do. We just went through a list of rules that we think will help protect us, but allow us to still conduct our business so that we can get drivers on the road taking care of customers.
Oh, that's pretty. You ought to videotape that one and send it out to all your employees so when they do come back. I do like the concept, what you talked about, because that Tennessee, the Middle Tennessee tornado did take out a company, and they're all remotely right now. And so this is going to make us all stronger and better when we realize the entire world is going to have to go to remote training. They have to start using LMSs to do the lion's share of their training going down the road.
Yes.
Are there any departments that were not on board at all for this shift?
I don't think as a department, no, but as a presenter, yes. You got people that, they do well when they go in and make their normal presentation each week at orientation, but then you walk in there one day and you got a camera sitting in the middle of the room videotaping what they do. It seems like their lips get real thick and hard to talk. But once they realize that, hey, I just got to get through this one time and it's a one and done thing, then, they buy in pretty quickly because they see the relief that they're going to get.
Okay, now you've addressed this a little bit, but how are you actually facilitating and setting the stage for the mandatory in-person events like the drive test and the drug screening? When you talk about bringing them in and having the Kleenex and all that, well, they got to do the drive test and the drug screening. How do you set the stage for that?
Well, as I said, we start with a little 10-minute, presentation about the pandemic and what we're doing, and then we go on and talk to them like during the road test. We, when they come out to the truck to start their road test, we tell them, look, we've just got through disinfecting the truck, wiping it down from the previous driver. We're not going to take any chances. We don't want you to either. Our folks that are road testing are wearing masks because they're sitting 3 or 4 feet away, from the person we're testing. So we're just doing everything that we can think of to reduce the risk, wiping down all the touch points, that kind of thing. We've been taking temperature of the people as they walk in the door. Our clinic, again, is right here in-house with us. We bring them in-house for that day. And the first thing they do is take temperature of people, make sure we're not bringing someone in that's already at risk. So we've had the new people come into orientation. They actually appreciate us taking all the precautions that we are.
Pat, one of the questions we had a few weeks back was, where are you finding the cleaning materials? Are you all having issues finding stuff like that? And our answer was, go to our website and look at the blog posts and see what other people are doing. But also, I've found in small towns that you pull into, I don't want to promote anyone's brand name, but the smaller stores in small towns, and they generally will have stuff on the shelves that are not in the larger cities. Are y'all having issues?
Jay, you're exactly right. The smaller towns, the smaller stores seem to be more, have a better inventory than what our larger cities and larger stores do. So here in Memphis, we're not one of the largest cities in the country, but we're large enough. And so what we have done, we've been able to buy aloe and alcohol. We've been mixing our own sanitizer. And we've encouraged people to bring us their little bottles, that we could refill for them. And so we, besides maintaining trucks, our maintenance department is also maintaining sanitizer. And quite often we're having to mix it ourselves.
That's, we have a friend that owns a nursing home, and she's had 0 incidents whatsoever. And she has been very creative about how she puts together cleaning fluids and things like that. We're going to try to get her on to have a conversation with her because she's been very creative in using normal products that are still available out there. So that's going to be pretty powerful. Mark, I know you've been sitting there listening to most of this. You're bound to have a question or two of Pat and what he's dealt with, considering your background.
Yeah, just a quick question on scheduling, Pat. Your recruiters, I assume, will process an app and get a conditional offer letter And as a part of that, a list of assignments that are to be completed. You said you had an orientation yesterday on Tuesday. What do you get that out the week prior, or how quick do you get those assignments out to your potential applicant, your employees?
We get it out to them, Mark, the very minute that the recruiter closes the deal with the new hire.
Okay.
We immediately send, our recruiter will send our orientation leaders an email. I need this driver set up. And then we will turn around and email or call him back with a link, a website to go to, how to log in. And then again, as we said, we're telling them we expect the online portion of it to be done. Actually, if they just lack 2 or 3 small presentations, we'll go ahead and bring them in. But if they hadn't got started, we're actually being disciplined enough not to bring them in until they get that done. That shows a commitment on their part that I do want to come. I do want to, I am going to, be responsible, and then bring them in here for a little over a half day, and out the door they go.
So you've got a template pre-designed that you don't have to redevelop every time you have a new hire. You got a template ready, zap, it goes out. They've got the assignments and how to sign on, and bring them in the next week.
That's correct. And, because we've already been doing a portion of our orientation online, all we had to do was increase the presentations. And hey, I want to tell you, I'm going to give kudos right now to our customer rep and all of the Infinity team. When we decided we had to, we needed to make this change quickly, we uploaded to them several presentations. They got it ready for us in the time frame that we needed it. I was not expecting them to be able to, but they exceeded my expectation.
And those presentations were customized. That was custom content that Ozark and yourself put together.
Yes, sir. I mean, we're talking about, presentation from payroll, one from the maintenance shop, talking about, what they need to do, what new hires need to do to work with them on the equipment, keep it running. So, yeah, these are all custom content.
Gotcha.
I can't imagine a world going down the road, where we don't have remote training as many places as possible. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in society. I mean, I was talking to a gentleman earlier today, and he had talked about all the kids born this year are going to be Generation C for coronavirus, and it's going to have an impact on everybody. So that's fascinating. Let me wrap this up, and then we're going to open the floor to questions for Pat. But in the meantime, we are pleased, really pleased, to be able to bring to the industry, the 5 leadership practices to help frontline logistics thrive during this crisis. And I'm not going to go through all 5 of those leadership practices. You can see those previously on our website. Just go to Infinity Workforce and you can see those. But number 2 is what we discussed today: the new effective organization and crisis management. And we were able to focus on Pat. If you like what you hear, if you know that you have to go towards remote training, and I will tell you, you will have to. And it's just a matter of time with social distancing, with things that are going on in the world around us today. It's a matter of time to do that. And we want to put the best foot forward in the industry with the professional series. Also, regardless of your role as a problem solver in the company, you need to be thinking proactively. You need to be taking care of yourself and looking down the road. You need to invest in online orientation. You heard Pat sit there and talk about several things. Number one, they're putting their own custom content up, and then they're going to do the virtual follow through and the tour of their facilities. You start using, we have online templates that you can start using immediately. And Mark and I invest in this deal. The entire company is invested in your success. And that's my personal email address, j@verticalag.com, or you can call the 866 number, 904-5087, and we will answer any questions you have. And then also putting our best foot forward, we want to see as many companies as possible keep their fleet safe, keep their employees safe. And so 30-day complimentary free trial to start training and doing orientation, and that is, there are no strings attached. We just want to see that happen. We know it's on its way. The industry is changing. The world is changing. And we want to help you do that as best we can, because it's critical. It is critical for the salvation of our nation. The trucking industry is leading the way to recovery. There wouldn't be anything in the grocery store without trucks. Everything in your room, I'm preaching to the choir right now, but everything that we see in our room, everywhere, has been brought and touched by a truck. Those people have got to be kept safe, and those people have got to be brought home safe, and their families have got to be safe. And this is one great big step in the right direction. With that being said, I would like to open the floor to questions for Mr. Landreth and Mark Ray or myself, but mainly for Pat.
And I want to tell you, the plaintiff attorneys out there are some of them are extremely good. And so when you get into a crash that ends up in litigation, then they're going through and nitpicking. They're looking at that driver manual. They're looking at your training, et cetera. And one of the best things about Infinity is that it documents every piece of training. And the record's there. I don't have to even worry about the records. I can depend on Infinity to do that for me. We just cannot do. 37 years ago, the company I started in trucking with had a 5-day orientation. Now, I know there's a few companies that still do that, but they're mostly like flatbed that have to have hands-on instruction about tying stuff down. But we can't do that anymore. And I'll tell you something, here's another big deal. As much as we think our orientation is so good, the driver don't give a damn. All he wants is a set of keys and a steering wheel and let me go.
Well, are you seeing some transitioning drivers from oil field or somewhere else coming in that say, hold on, when I quit driving, we weren't doing electronic logs. How do you do this? Are you seeing a little bit of that?
Not much anymore. Most of the drivers now, their dadgum grandkids are showing them how to use a smartphone. So, getting them tech savvy is not the curve that it used to be.
Gotcha.
That is interesting. Pat, one of the things that we talked to our lawyers, and they said, look, the lawsuits are going to go rampant, and they're not going to go away. They're going to get worse after this, after people can start leaving their homes, and when this thing settles down. It's more important than ever to document everything you're doing, and we're losing sight of that. Some companies are losing sight of that with the backdrop of the pandemic. And I got news for them. At some point, it's going to come back and rear its ugly head in a big, big way, particularly when they open the door.
Mm-hmm.
So that is, yeah. So I don't know why. I just despise trial lawyers. I just despise them. I think that's my motivation for having this company.
Well, Pat, I know the drill. You get sued, the first thing they ask for are, the DQ file, the training documents, and what did you show them in orientation? Looking for a shortcut, or did you compromise something somewhere? A
blind person could readily see that, who's at fault, and it'd be the plaintiff. But it doesn't matter. All they got to do is find a little chink in our armor, and then they start drilling deeper and deeper.
Yep, that's exactly how it works.
That's the industry that we're in, quite frankly. So what's next, Pat? What's next for you? What's going on in your world?
Well, we've had cameras in our trucks for about 3 years, but we're changing to a different system that we think is going to be tremendously better. We're just trying. Honestly, not that we got the best program, we got a darn good one, and yet we keep looking for how do you make that better? How can you make that better and get the same end result for less money and for less time? And you got to have driver buy-in, or it don't work at all. So those are the things we work on every day, just trying to fine-tune, get the focus even more detailed than what it is.
Pat, man, I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you've done for us. And you've been such a big supporter. You have no idea how much you're appreciated around here. Who is your?
Well, I'm going to remind you, you owe it to Matt Cornell. at my prior employer, Matt Cornell, I mean, I ain't no telling how much money he cost you in business cards and U.S. mail. And I mean, it was at least once a week. And then at my prior employer, we sold our LTL division, and I used to have my drivers go through one of 36 locations and get their training done. And all of a sudden, we ain't got 36 locations. We got a headquarters, and that's it. And, you know, we're running the Midwest and the Southeast, and all of a sudden, I pulled out one of those zillion business cards from Matt Cornell, and I said, hey, can you make my orientation online? And he turned around and lined up, and I don't know, we may have been the first company with you that did online orientation. We put 100% of it online in just a matter of no time.
Yeah, no, that was 100%. And then you were willing to do 100%, and I think some of the owners they want that half day or that one day of touch point with people.
There's something too, Jay. I mean, hope nobody drills me down on this, but there's something to meeting them face to face and trying to bond a little bit, and that kind of thing. There's one transportation company out there. I can't remember if it's Titan or if it's Knight, but I think it's Titan Transfer, Middle Tennessee. I think they do 100% online. They get their physical drug screen done at a clinic somewhere in the country, close to the driver. They do all the orientation online, and when they walk in the door, it's a very short meet and greet, and out the door they go. We feel a little different about that. We just feel like we need to shake their hand, give them a hug, make them feel warm, and thank them for being there. But the more we can do online, there's no doubt it's better for them, it's better for us.
Yeah, no question about that. No question about that.